I didn't think my own son would ever raise his hand against me. But that night, under the yellow porch light, with the neighbors watching like they were glued to their windows, I felt his grip tighten around my hair. My daughter-in-law had already punched me so hard that my knees buckled, sending me crashing to the cold wooden floor. My cheek burned, my ears rang, and as I tried to pull myself up, she screamed, "Stay down, you old hag!" Then he, my son, my baby, grabbed me by the hair and dragged me out like I was some piece of trash. "Get out! It's 4 million mom. You don't deserve this house anymore." His voice was a mix of rage and greed. The neighbors whispered, some gasped, but no one stepped forward. They thought nobody would interfere. I screamed for help, but my voice cracked. The world spun as he yanked me across the porch. My heart pounded like it wanted to burst out of my chest. I caught glimpses of familiar faces behind curtains, faces I had smiled at during barbecues and holiday parties. Yet, none of them moved. And then I heard it, the sound of a phone call. A shadow moved quickly across the street. Someone was dialing. The click of a door shutting echoed faintly. The next moment, blue and red lights flashed down the street. The sirens cut through the night like a blade. My son froze, his grip still tangled in my hair. My daughter-in-law's smirk disappeared. The police car skidded to a stop in front of the house. 2 officers jumped out, hands on their belts, eyes sharp. "Sir, let her go. Now!" one of them shouted. My son hesitated, then shoved me to the ground. I landed on my side, my ribs screaming in pain. As I gasped for air, the officers rushed toward us. "Ma'am, are you okay?" one asked, crouching beside me. Before I could answer, my daughter-in-law started yelling, "She's crazy. She attacked me first. We were just defending ourselves." Lies. Pure lies. I tried to speak, to tell them the truth, but my voice was trembling. The officer helped me sit up while the other pulled my son back, his hands now behind his head. The flashing lights illuminated his face, twisted with anger but also fear. The neighbors began to step out now, their phones recording. Suddenly, they were brave. Suddenly, they cared. I watched as the police questioned them, and for the first time in years, I saw cracks in their perfect little lies. The walls they built to protect themselves were crumbling. But this was only the beginning. As they handcuffed my son and led him to the patrol car, he spat out words that cut through me. "This isn't over, Mom. You'll regret this. You'll lose everything." His wife stood frozen on the porch, trembling as the officers turned to her. The night was filled with chaos, sirens, shouts, and the murmurs of neighbors. But in my heart, a storm was brewing. They thought they could break me. They thought they could take what I built, what I sacrificed my entire life for. They were wrong. The officer leaned close and whispered, "We need to take you to the hospital, ma'am. You're badly hurt." I nodded, but my mind was already elsewhere. I wasn't just hurt. I was awake now. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, my eyes locked on my daughter-in-law. She glared at me, her hands shaking. I could almost hear her thoughts. This old woman isn't supposed to fight back. Little did she know, I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. And when I returned, their entire life would fall apart. They thought I was weak. As the ambulance sped through the quiet suburban streets, I lay on the stretcher, staring at the ceiling lights flashing above me. Every bump in the road sent a wave of pain through my ribs, but the ache inside my chest was far worse than any physical wound. My own son. The boy I raised, the boy I sacrificed my youth for, had dragged me out like garbage. The paramedic leaned over me. "Ma'am, can you tell me your name?" "My name is Margaret Hayes," I said, my voice cracking. "I'm 83 years old, and my son just tried to throw me out of my own home." He nodded, his face tight with sympathy. "We'll take good care of you, Margaret. You're safe now." Safe. That word felt like a cruel joke. I wasn't safe, not yet. Because even as I lay there, I could still hear my son's voice, sharp, cold, echoing in my head. It's 4 million, Mom. You don't deserve it. At the hospital, they treated my injuries. Bruised ribs, a sprained wrist, a cut on my forehead, but nothing could mend the heartbreak. The nurse, a kind young woman with chestnut hair, stayed by my side. Do you have anyone we can call? She asked gently. I thought about it. My friends were gone, one by one taken by age and time. The only person I had left was the one who had just betrayed me. No, I whispered. She patted my hand softly. You're not alone here. Rest. I closed my eyes, but rest never came. Instead, memories flooded in. I remembered the day my son, Daniel, was born. He had the bluest eyes and the softest blonde hair, just like me. I cradled him in my arms, promising I'd protect him forever. When his father died young, I worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. I skipped meals so he wouldn't go hungry. I sold my wedding ring to pay for his college. And when he married Melissa, I welcomed her with open arms. She was beautiful, with her sleek brown hair and polished smile. But there was something in her eyes, a glimmer of ambition mixed with greed. I ignored it. Love makes you blind. Over the years, I watched them grow cold toward me. They rarely visited unless they wanted something. And when my husband's inheritance, $4 million, came to me, their visits became more frequent, their smiles faker. I thought I was imagining it. I wanted to believe they loved me, not my money. But deep down, I knew. The next morning, the doctor released me. You need rest, Mrs. Hayes, he said. I smiled faintly. I need more than that. A police officer was waiting outside my room. Officer Reed, his name tag read. He was young, probably in his late 20s, with a firm expression. Ma'am, we arrested your son last night, but he made bail this morning. His wife is also under investigation for assault. Do you want to press charges? I hesitated. Pressing charges meant war. But they had already declared war on me. Yes, I said firmly. He nodded. We'll handle the case, but you should be careful. Do you have somewhere safe to stay? A small laugh escaped my lips. Safe? Officer, I'm going back to my house. It's mine, and they're not going to take it from me. He looked at me with respect. Be careful, ma'am. They seem desperate. Desperate. That word stuck with me as I signed the hospital papers and stepped into the cab. My house stood waiting at the end of Maple Street, a big white 2-story with blue shutters. It looked the same, but as I walked up the path, I noticed something. Melissa's car was gone, but a window upstairs was slightly open. I walked in cautiously. The air smelled different, like perfume and cheap wine. My heart pounded. The living room was empty, but on the coffee table lay a note, scribbled in Daniel's handwriting. You think the cops can protect you? This is our house now. You'll regret fighting us. My hands trembled as I read it. They were planning something worse. I picked up the phone and called my lawyer, Mr. Thompson, an old friend of my late husband. Margaret, he said, his voice calm. Don't worry. We'll secure your ownership of the house. They can't legally touch it. They don't care about legal, I whispered. They care about power. That night, I locked every door, every window, and sat in my bedroom with the phone clutched to my chest. I barely slept, every creak in the house making me jump. By morning, I went to the police station to sign more papers. As I left, a woman in a gray hoodie brushed past me. I thought nothing of it, until I noticed a slip of paper in my pocket. I unfolded it with shaking hands. It read, "Be careful. They're planning to finish what they started." I spun around, searching for the hooded figure, but she was gone. Who was she? How did she know? As fear crawled up my spine, I realized something. This wasn't just about greed anymore. Someone else was involved, someone who wanted me gone as much as they did. And as I turned the corner to head home, a black SUV started following me slowly. My heart pounded. The black SUV trailed me like a shadow. Every turn I took, it followed. My hands tightened on my purse as I walked faster, my cane clicking against the pavement. I wasn't imagining it. This was real. When I reached my gate, the SUV slowed to a crawl. The tinted window rolled down halfway, and I caught a glimpse of a man's eyes staring right at me. He didn't speak. He just watched. My breath hitched as I fumbled with the keys. Finally, I pushed through the gate and slammed it shut. The SUV revved its engine and sped away, leaving a cloud of exhaust. My knees trembled as I locked the door behind me. Who was that? The house felt different, colder, like the walls were holding their breath. I went room to room, checking for anything out of place. In the kitchen, I saw a broken cup on the floor. In the hallway, a picture of my late husband was turned face down. My heart sank. Someone had been here. I called Officer Reed. "There's been someone in my house," I said, my voice shaking. "They're watching me." "We'll send a patrol car to keep an eye on the area, Mrs. Hayes," he assured me. "Lock your doors and don't open them for anyone you don't know." I hung up, but fear still gnawed at me. They were not just after my house. They were after me. That night, I barely slept. Every sound, the wind, the creak of the floorboards, the ticking clock, felt like a threat. Around midnight, I heard it. Footsteps outside my bedroom window. My breath caught. Slowly, I reached for the phone and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "There's someone outside my house," I whispered. "Stay on the line, ma'am. Units are on the way." The minutes stretched endlessly. Then, the sound stopped. Silence. I peeked through the curtains. Nothing but the swaying branches. Did they leave? Or were they still there, waiting? By the time the police arrived, whoever it was had vanished. The officers searched the yard and found footprints leading to the woods behind my property. Officer Reed looked at me seriously. "They're trying to scare you, Margaret, but they won't get away with this." The next morning, as I sipped my coffee with shaky hands, there was a knock at the door. I froze. Slowly, I opened it to see an elderly neighbor, Mrs. Cooper, standing there. "Margaret, dear," she said nervously, "I saw Daniel and Melissa last night. They were parked down the street, whispering to some man I've never seen before. It didn't look good." A chill ran through me. "Thank you, Clara," I said softly. She squeezed my hand. "You need to be careful." After she left, I sat at the kitchen table, my mind racing. Who was the man? Why were they meeting him? I needed answers. Later that day, I went to the bank to check my accounts. The teller frowned. "Mrs. Hayes, there was an attempt to access your savings last night. Someone tried to transfer $200,000 to an offshore account. Luckily, the system flagged it." My jaw tightened. Melissa. It had to be her. I called my lawyer, Mr. Thompson. "They're not just trying to take the house. They're trying to drain my accounts." "I'll freeze everything under your name immediately," he said. "Don't worry, Margaret. You'll be protected legally." Legally. The word felt empty. These people didn't play by the rules. That evening, I decided to install cameras around the house. The technician worked quickly, setting up motion sensors and alarms. "Anyone steps foot on this property, you'll know," he promised. But as the sun set and the technician left, an eerie silence settled. I turned on the TV to drown out my thoughts, but the unease remained. Around midnight, the cameras triggered an alert. My phone buzzed with a notification. "Motion detected. Front porch." My heart stopped. I opened the live feed. Melissa was standing there, dressed in black, her hair pulled back, her face twisted with rage. She pounded on the door, screaming, "You think you can call the cops on us? You're finished, old woman. Give us what's ours." I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just watched her through the screen. After a few minutes, she stormed off, disappearing into the night. The police arrived minutes later, but she was gone. Officer Reed sighed. "We'll issue a restraining order against her. Stay inside, ma'am." As they left, I looked out the window. In the distance, headlights glowed. That black SUV was back, parked just beyond the trees. Watching. Waiting. The next morning, something even more chilling happened. A package was left at my doorstep. No name, no return address. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a single item, a strand of my own blonde hair tied with a black ribbon. My knees buckled. They had been inside my house again. I clutched the strand to my chest, my heart racing. This was no longer just about money. This was a threat. And I knew then that I had to do something. I couldn't just wait to be attacked. They wanted a war? They were going to get one. But as I picked up the phone to call my lawyer, the house phone rang first. I answered with trembling hands. A deep voice on the other end said, "You have until tomorrow to sign everything over, or we'll come back. And next time, no cops will save you." The line went dead. The voice on the phone still echoed in my head hours after the call ended. "You have until tomorrow to sign everything over." I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the papers scattered before me. My deed, my bank statements, my will. My hands trembled, but not from fear. No, something inside me was changing. I wasn't the fragile old woman they thought they could intimidate. They had woken up the part of me that had survived harder battles, the part that raised a child alone and built a life from nothing. By dawn, I had made a decision. That morning, I called Officer Reed. "They gave me an ultimatum," I said. "They're coming back tonight." He took a deep breath. "Mrs. Hayes, we'll set up surveillance around your property. If they come near you, we'll catch them." "And if they don't?" I asked. "Then we'll have proof they're threatening you. Just stay calm." Calm. The word felt foreign. My heart was racing. But I agreed, and he promised to send a team that night. By afternoon, I started preparing my own defenses. I moved my valuables to a secret compartment my late husband had built under the floorboards. I gathered documents, proof of ownership, bank statements, and the restraining order that would be issued by the court that day. While I worked, the doorbell rang. My stomach dropped. Slowly, I peeked through the curtain. Melissa stood there, her perfect hair pulled into a bun, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She carried a folder under her arm. I opened the door just an inch. "What do you want?" She smirked. "Oh, come on, Margaret. You know why I'm here. Sign the house over, and maybe we'll let you live in the guest room. Refuse, and things get ugly." I swallowed hard. "You already made things ugly when you hit me." She tilted her head. "You think the cops scare me? You're old. You'll slip, fall, and nobody will care." Rage burned inside me, but I kept my voice steady. "Get off my property." Her smirk widened. "Tomorrow, you'll be begging to sign." She turned on her heel and walked away, her heels clicking against the pavement. As she reached her car, she glanced back at me. "Oh, and by the way, you might want to check the back door." My chest tightened. I rushed to the back of the house. The door was ajar. That night, I barely moved from the window. The police car sat hidden down the street, its lights off, officers waiting. The cameras were rolling, every angle covered. Hours passed. Midnight came. Nothing. Then, at 1:37 a.m., the cameras detected motion. I checked the live feed. Daniel and Melissa were creeping up the path, dressed in black. Behind them was the man from the SUV, tall and broad-shouldered. My breath caught. They were carrying something, a crowbar. I called Officer Reed immediately. "They're here." "We see them," he said. "Stay inside, do not engage." But as they approached the door, Melissa whispered loudly, her voice picked up by the camera's microphone. "She's not going to win. We'll scare her so bad she'll sign everything tomorrow." The man with them grunted. "Or she won't wake up at all." My blood turned to ice. The doorknob rattled. Then the glass shattered. They were inside. The alarm screamed through the night, and the officers burst out from their hiding spot. "Police! Drop your weapons!" Chaos exploded. Daniel ran toward the back door, but an officer tackled him. Melissa screamed and tried to run, only to be caught by another cop. The man from the SUV swung the crowbar wildly before being pinned to the ground. From my hiding spot upstairs, I watched through the railing as they were handcuffed, their faces twisted with rage. Melissa spat at the officers. "You can't do this. She's lying. This is our house." Officer Reed looked up at me. "We've got them, Mrs. Hayes. You're safe now." But as they dragged Daniel past me, he looked me dead in the eye and hissed, "This isn't over, Mom. You think you've won? You have no idea what's coming." By the time the sun rose, they were all in custody. The officers collected the crowbar, the broken glass, the security footage, everything they needed to charge them with breaking and entering, assault, and attempted theft. I sat on the porch as the world slowly woke up. Neighbors peeked out their windows, whispering among themselves. For once, I didn't care. I had survived the night. But deep inside, I knew Daniel's words weren't empty. There was more to this. Someone else was backing them, someone powerful enough to keep this nightmare alive. As I sipped my tea, I spotted it, a black SUV parked far down the street. Different from the one last night, but equally menacing. A figure sat inside, watching me. The battle wasn't over. The black SUV didn't move. I sat on my porch, my hands wrapped around a warm cup of tea, staring at it. The morning breeze carried the smell of fresh grass, but the sight of that vehicle made the air feel heavy. Whoever was inside wasn't just watching, they were waiting. The police had barely left when my phone buzzed. It was Officer Reed. "Mrs. Hayes, we've confirmed your son and daughter-in-law will remain in custody for at least 48 hours pending charges. But I want you to be cautious. We have reason to believe someone else is involved, possibly financing their actions." My chest tightened. "I know. They're watching me. Right now." "We'll increase patrols," he said firmly. "Don't open your doors for anyone." I hung up, but I knew patrols wouldn't be enough. Whoever was behind this wasn't afraid of the law. Later that afternoon, my lawyer, Mr. Thompson, came over. He was a tall man in his 70s with sharp eyes and a calming voice. He placed a folder on my kitchen table. "Margaret, I've done some digging. Your son and his wife recently took out large loans from a private lender. Not a bank, a man known for shady dealings. He's rumored to be involved in illegal property takeovers. If they don't pay him back, he takes whatever collateral he wants." I swallowed hard. "And the collateral is my house." He nodded. "Exactly. And if they promised your property as collateral without your consent, that's fraud. But these people don't play by the rules. They'll come after you." I leaned back, my heart pounding. "So that's who's been watching me." Mr. Thompson looked at me seriously. "Do you have a safe place to go?" I shook my head. "No. This is my home. I won't run from them." A faint smile appeared on his face. "Then we'll fight back." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the living room, the security cameras streaming live on my phone. At 2 a.m., the SUV was still there. My gut told me they were planning something bigger. I thought about my life, my sacrifices, the love I gave that turned into betrayal. I thought about Daniel as a little boy, clutching my hand on his first day of school. How did we end up here? Tears rolled down my cheeks, but with every tear, my resolve hardened. The next morning, I went to the police station to sign more statements. On my way out, the same hooded woman who had slipped me the warning days ago appeared beside me. "Mrs. Hayes," she said quietly, glancing around to make sure no one was listening. My pulse quickened. "Who are you?" "I used to work for the man they owe money to," she whispered. "His name is Victor Sloan. Dangerous. He doesn't just want your house. He wants to use it as a front for his operations. If you don't sign it over, he'll keep coming. He won't stop until you're gone." I felt my stomach drop. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I got out. And I don't want to see another innocent woman destroyed by him," she said, slipping me a card with a number. "If you want to take him down, call this. But be careful. Once you move against him, there's no turning back." Before I could ask more, she disappeared into the crowd. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the card in my hand. The SUV was still parked at the end of the street, its lights off. My heart pounded as I dialed the number. A man's voice answered. "Who gave you this number?" "A woman. She said you could help me." He was silent for a moment. Then he said, "Meet me tomorrow, 9 a.m., at the old diner on Pine Street. Don't tell anyone. And don't bring your phone." The line went dead. The next morning, I wrapped myself in a heavy coat and left the house before dawn. The SUV was gone, which worried me more than seeing it. I drove my old Buick to the diner, my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Inside, a man in his 40s with rugged features sat alone in a corner booth. He gestured for me to sit. "You're Margaret," he said. "I know all about Sloan. He's been untouchable for years. But with your case, we have a chance to nail him. You just need to play along." "Play along?" I asked. "You're going to act like you're giving in. Sign the fake transfer papers they send you. They'll think they've won, but every step will be monitored. We'll catch them red-handed." I hesitated. "And what if they find out I'm working with you?" He smirked. "Then you'd better be ready to fight." I agreed. I had no choice. When I returned home, an envelope was taped to my door. Inside were transfer documents with a note in bold letters. "Sign this by midnight, or you won't see the sunrise." My hands shook as I looked out the window. The SUV was back, its engine humming. I took a deep breath. This was it. The beginning of the trap. That night, as the clock struck 11, I placed the signed, but fake, papers in an envelope. My heart raced as I stepped outside and laid it on the porch, as instructed. Moments later, a man stepped out of the shadows to take it. The SUV door opened. Victor Sloan himself got out, tall, dressed in black, his face hidden under a hat. He smiled coldly. "Smart woman. You know how to survive." But just as he reached for the envelope, floodlights burst on, and police vehicles surrounded the house. "Victor Sloan, you're under arrest." The officers swarmed, but Sloan didn't flinch. He looked at me with eyes that felt like knives. "This isn't over, Margaret," he said calmly, even as they cuffed him. "You just started a war you can't win." As they dragged him away, the SUV's engine roared to life. Another car peeled off into the night, escaping. Someone else was still out there. And deep down, I knew Sloan was right. This wasn't over. The night Victor Sloan was taken away should have been my moment of peace. But it wasn't. The SUV that had peeled off into the darkness haunted me. Who was driving it? Why didn't they stop? My gut told me whoever escaped was even more dangerous than Sloan himself. The next morning, Officer Reed came to my house. His expression was tense. "Margaret," he said, stepping inside, "Sloane's people are furious. We caught him, but he's not the only one running this operation. There's a network. They're still watching you." I sighed. "So what now?" He leaned closer. "Now, we build a case strong enough to keep him in prison forever. But until then, you need to be careful. Someone close to you might be feeding them information." The words hit me like a slap. Someone close to me? I didn't have many people left in my life, only a handful of neighbors, my lawyer, and a few acquaintances from church. Could one of them be working with Sloane's crew? That evening, I decided to test the theory. I told no one that I was going to the courthouse the next morning to sign some legal papers. Instead, I stayed home and watched from my window. Sure enough, a dark sedan slowly cruised past my house, stopping briefly before moving on. They were expecting me to leave. Someone had tipped them off. My heart sank. The following day, I met with Mr. Thompson at his office. His usually calm demeanor was replaced with unease. "Margaret," he said, "someone tried to access your case files from our system last night. They failed, but this isn't normal. Whoever it is has inside help." My skin prickled. "You think someone in your office?" He nodded. "I'm looking into it, but be careful who you trust." I left the office with my stomach in knots. That night, as I double-checked my doors, my landline rang. Slowly, I picked it up. "You think Sloane's arrest saved you?" the voice hissed. It wasn't Sloane. It was colder, more calculating. "We know everything. Your routines, your friends, your lawyer. You're not safe." "Who is this?" I demanded. The voice chuckled. "Ask your neighbor Clara. She knows more than she pretends." The line went dead. I froze. Clara. Sweet old Mrs. Cooper, who had warned me about Daniel and Melissa. My mind raced. Could she be working with them? I decided to confront her. The next morning, I walked to Clara's house. She answered the door, her smile warm but nervous. "Margaret, dear, come in," she said. I studied her carefully. "Clara, have you been talking to anyone about me?" Her eyes widened. "No." "Why would you ask that?" "Because someone said you know more than you should," I said, my voice steady. She hesitated. "Margaret." I didn't want to get involved, but yes, I know something. Last week, a man came to my door. He offered me money to keep quiet about what I saw. He said if I didn't, he'd hurt me. I was scared. My heart softened. She wasn't betraying me. She was terrified. "Who was he?" I asked. "I don't know his name," she whispered. "But he had a scar on his neck. He said he worked for someone higher than Sloane. Someone who doesn't like being in the spotlight." That evening, I called the man from the diner, the one who was helping me set Sloane up. "Sloane's not the end of this," I told him. "There's someone else. Someone bigger." He paused. "I know. And we think he's coming for you personally." The thought made my stomach twist. "Then we need to be ready." "You will be," he said. "But you'll have to lure him out. Make him think you're alone and vulnerable. Will you do that?" I swallowed hard. Yes. That night, I turned off all the lights and pretended to sleep. The cameras were rolling, the police were on standby, but I kept one window open, just enough to tempt whoever was watching. At 2 a.m., I heard it. The creak of the back gate. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. Slowly, a shadow moved across my yard. The figure slipped through the open window, silent as a ghost. I grabbed my phone and whispered, "They're here," to Officer Reed, who was listening on the other end. The figure stepped into the living room, his face partially hidden under a hood. But as he turned toward me, the moonlight revealed the scar on his neck. He smiled darkly. "You should have stayed quiet, old woman." Before he could move, the house lights blazed on and officers stormed in, tackling him to the ground. But as they cuffed him, he laughed. "You think catching me changes anything? She's still coming." "She?" I asked, my voice trembling. The man smirked. "You'll see." Later, Officer Reed explained. "This man works for someone known only as the Widow. She's a criminal mastermind who controls Sloan and his operations. If she's involved, this isn't over." The name sent chills down my spine. That night, I sat in my bedroom, staring out the window. Somewhere out there, a woman called the Widow was planning her next move. And if she was as ruthless as they said, the storm was only beginning. The mention of the Widow clung to me like a shadow. For the next few days, I barely stepped outside. Police patrols circled the neighborhood, but that did little to calm my nerves. Officer Reed assured me they were watching closely, yet deep down, I knew the Widow wasn't someone who could be caught by ordinary means. Every night, I dreamed of her, an unseen figure orchestrating my destruction with cold precision. On the fourth night, I woke to the smell of smoke. My heart leapt as I rushed to the kitchen, only to find a burning envelope pushed through the mail slot. I grabbed a towel and smothered the flames. Inside the charred remains was a note written in elegant cursive. "You've meddled in my affairs, Margaret. Your house, your money, your life, all will be mine. You have 72 hours to disappear, or you won't see another sunrise." I collapsed into a chair, my hands trembling. This was no empty threat. The next morning, Officer Reed came by. I handed him the note. His jaw tightened as he read it. "She's escalating," he said. "This isn't just intimidation anymore. She's making it personal." "I know," I said quietly. "Margaret, we can relocate you temporarily. Put you in a safe house until we take her down." I shook my head. "No, I won't hide. This is my home. She wants me to run so she can take everything." Reed stared at me, then nodded reluctantly. "Then we fight. But we'll need a strategy." That afternoon, I called the man from the diner, the undercover agent working against Sloan. When I told him about the Widow's threat, he whistled softly. "She's worse than Sloan ever was. Cunning. She doesn't just send goons, she gets inside your head. If she's after you, we have to turn the tables." "How?" I asked. "By using what she wants most, your house, as bait. We'll make her think you're giving in. But when she comes for it, we'll have her." I hesitated. "You're asking me to put myself in the lion's den." He smirked. "Exactly." That night, I began my own preparations. I moved my valuables to a friend's storage unit. I copied all my legal documents and gave the originals to Mr. Thompson. Then I sat down at my desk and wrote a letter only to be opened if something happened to me. As I sealed it, I felt a strange calm. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was taking control. The next day, I posted a notice on my front gate, pretending to give in. "Property for sale. Serious buyers only. Owner desperate to sell." It was a lie, but the bait was set. Within hours, a sleek black car pulled up. A tall woman stepped out, dressed in a black coat, sunglasses hiding her eyes. Even from a distance, I felt her presence. Cold. Powerful. She didn't knock. She walked straight up to me, her heels clicking on the pavement. "You must be Margaret," she said, her voice smooth and chilling. I forced a smile. "And you must be the Widow." She smirked. "So you've heard of me. Good. Then you know I always get what I want. Sign the house over, and I'll let you live out what little time you have left in peace." I tilted my head. And if I refuse? Her smile widened. Then you'll wish you had. For a moment, we stood there, locked in silence. Two women from different worlds, one old and frail, the other young and deadly, but neither willing to back down. Finally, she handed me a folder. You have 24 hours. Don't make me come back angry. She turned and walked away, her car disappearing into the distance. That night, I gathered with Officer Reed, the undercover agent, and Mr. Thompson in my living room. We went over the plan in hushed voices. She'll be back tomorrow, I said. She will, the agent replied. And when she does, we'll be ready. The cameras are hidden, the backup units are in place. The moment she makes her move, we take her down. But deep inside, I wasn't so sure. The widow wasn't like the others. She was smarter, more careful. The following evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I sat on my porch, waiting. Every muscle in my body was tense. The world seemed to hold its breath. At 9 p.m., headlights approached. The same black car rolled up slowly. The widow stepped out, her smile cold and confident. Have you made your choice? She asked softly. I stood tall, my voice steady. Yes. I'm not signing anything. Her smile faded. Wrong answer. She snapped her fingers, and suddenly, two masked men emerged from the shadows, moving toward me. Before I could react, the sound of sirens erupted. Floodlights blazed on, blinding them. Police stormed the property from every direction. The widow didn't flinch. Instead, she raised her hands calmly as officers surrounded her. You think this ends with me, she said, her voice like ice. You've only scratched the surface. As they cuffed her, she leaned close to me and whispered, I have people everywhere, Margaret, even where you least expect. Her words sent chills down my spine. That night, the house was quiet again, but sleep didn't come. Her threat echoed in my mind. If she had people everywhere, then this wasn't over. And I had the sinking feeling that the next betrayal would come from someone I trusted completely. The house felt empty after they took the widow away, yet her words clung to me like a curse. I have people everywhere. For 2 days, things were quiet. Too quiet. Officer Reed assured me the widow was locked up tight, but my gut screamed that her reach went beyond prison walls. Then, on the third morning, I woke to the sound of my alarm system blaring. My heart pounded as I rushed to the living room, only to find the front door wide open. Nothing was stolen, but there was a message spray-painted across my wall in red. You can't hide from US. When Reed arrived, his jaw clenched as he took photos. This was done by someone who knew your alarm codes, he said. Only a handful of us have access to those. The thought made my blood run cold. Someone inside the police? Or someone close to me? Later that day, the undercover agent called. Margaret, there's been a leak. Someone tipped off the widow's people about our sting. They knew we were watching, but she let herself get caught to buy time for something bigger. I gripped the phone tightly. What's bigger than this? You'll see soon enough, he said grimly. That evening, I invited my lawyer, Mr. Thompson, over. As he sipped tea, I noticed his hand shaking slightly. Margaret, he said softly, I've been meaning to tell you something. There's been unusual activity in your accounts again. Someone accessed them with credentials only I and one other associate have. I studied his face. Are you saying you think someone in your office is betraying me? He swallowed hard. Or someone pretending to be me. My mind raced. The widow's words echoed louder. Even where you least expect. Around midnight, I reviewed my security footage from the night of the break-in. That's when I saw it, clear as day. A man disabling the alarm panel with ease. His face partially covered, but as he turned to glance at the camera, the mask slipped. It wasn't a stranger. It was Officer Reed. My stomach dropped. The next morning, I confronted him. He arrived at my house, uniform crisp, smile reassuring. "How are you holding up, Margaret?" I held the remote for the security footage in my hand. "Why don't you tell me?" I said, pressing play. His smile faded as his own face filled the screen. "Margaret, I can explain." "No," I snapped. "You betrayed me. You've been feeding them information this whole time." His eyes hardened. "I had no choice. The widow has leverage on me, on my family. You wouldn't understand." "I understand betrayal," I said coldly. Before he could respond, a voice from the doorway interrupted. "Step away from her, Reed." It was the undercover agent, gun drawn. Reed raised his hands slowly. "You don't know what you're dealing with." "Oh, I think we do," the agent said. "And your time's up." Reed bolted toward the back door, but agents swarmed in, tackling him to the ground. As they cuffed him, he shouted at me, "You think you're safe now? She's still out there. You'll never win." With Reed exposed and the widow behind bars, I thought maybe, just maybe, it was over. But the agent shook his head. "This was only a small piece of her empire. She's already pulling strings from her cell. She has loyalists everywhere. Tonight, we're moving you to a secure location." "No," I said firmly. "I'm not running. This ends here, in my house." He stared at me. "You're playing a dangerous game, Margaret." "I've been playing their game since the first punch," I said. "Now it's my turn." That night, I set my own trap. Cameras hidden in every corner, alarms set to alert the police directly, and a recording device in my pocket. I pretended to pack my belongings, leaving the front door slightly ajar, just as they expected. At 2:15 a.m., the sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. My pulse raced, but I stood my ground. The figure stepped into the living room. It was the widow herself. My jaw dropped. "How?" She smiled coldly. "Did you really think prison could hold me?" Behind her, masked men poured in. I pressed the button on my remote. Suddenly, floodlights blazed, sirens screamed, and armed officers stormed in from every direction. The widow spun around, snarling as she pulled a gun, but the agent tackled her to the ground. "This time," he growled, "you're not walking out." As they dragged her away, she locked eyes with me and hissed, "This isn't the end. You've taken everything from me, Margaret. I'll take more from you." I stood tall, my voice calm but firm. "You've already lost." The following morning, the house was quiet again. But I knew this wasn't the end of the war. The widow's network was vast, and even behind bars, she still had influence. Still, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks: strength. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a survivor. And the next move would be mine. The days after the widow's second arrest felt strangely calm. Almost too calm. The police increased their surveillance around my home, and the undercover agent stationed a car outside 24/7. But deep inside, I knew this was only the eye of the storm. I tried to go about my day as normally as possible, cooking simple meals, watering the flowers, reading on the porch. Yet every sound made me jump, every shadow seemed to move. I could almost feel her presence lingering, even behind prison walls. One night, as I sat sipping tea, the agent came inside, his face grave. "Margaret," he said, "we intercepted communication from the widow's network. She's ordered a full-scale attack to take you out, tonight." My heart pounded. "How?" "She's locked up. She has people outside. Loyalists who will do anything for her. They're coming, and we need to move you now." I stood up slowly, gripping the table. "No. If I run, they win. This is my house. This is where it ends." He stared at me, searching my face for hesitation. There was none. "Fine," he said at last. "Then we'll turn your house into a fortress." For the next few hours, the police set up barricades around the property. Officers hid in the shadows, snipers positioned on nearby rooftops, cameras monitored every angle. The agent handed me a small device. "Panic button," he explained. "Press it if things go wrong. But stay low, stay quiet, and don't open the door for anyone." I nodded, my hands trembling but my spirit unshaken. At exactly 2 a.m., it began. The sound of engines roared in the distance. Headlights appeared, cutting through the darkness. Several black vans screeched to a stop at the end of my street. Masked figures poured out, armed and moving with precision. My heart thudded so loudly I thought it would give me away. From my window, I watched as they spread out, surrounding my home like vultures. One of them carried a canister. I knew it wasn't for show. They weren't here to scare me this time. They were here to burn it all down. Suddenly, floodlights snapped on, blinding them. Loudspeakers blared. "This is the police. Drop your weapons." Chaos erupted. Gunfire cracked through the night as officers engaged the intruders. I ducked to the floor, covering my ears as bullets shattered windows and splintered wood. The agent burst into the room. "Stay down, Margaret. They're trying to breach the front." Through the chaos, I saw her. The widow. How she escaped again, I'll never know, but there she was, standing calmly in the middle of the street, watching the battle like a queen observing her pawns. Our eyes locked. She smirked, then signaled her men forward. The fight raged for what felt like an eternity. One by one, her men were taken down by the police, but they fought viciously, refusing to surrender. Smoke filled the air, and the smell of gunpowder burned my nose. Finally, officers surrounded her. "Hands up!" they shouted. But the widow only laughed. "Do you really think this ends with me?" she said, her voice carrying over the chaos. And then, with a speed I didn't think possible, she pulled something from her coat, an explosive device. The agent tackled her before she could trigger it, the device flying from her hand and clattering to the ground. One of the officers grabbed it and disarmed it just in time. They dragged the widow away, screaming and thrashing, her face twisted in rage. "You haven't won, Margaret," she shouted as they shoved her into the police van. "Everything you love will burn." When the last van disappeared down the street, silence settled like a heavy blanket. My house was scarred, windows shattered, walls riddled with bullet holes, but it was still standing. And so was I. The agent sat beside me on the porch steps, breathing heavily. "You're one tough woman, Margaret." I let out a shaky laugh. I had to be. The next morning, news reporters swarmed the street. Cameras flashed as they interviewed neighbors who had witnessed the battle. Some called me a hero, others whispered that I was cursed. But as I watched the sun rise over my battered home, I felt stronger than ever. The widow was in maximum security now. Her network was collapsing. For the first time in weeks, I believed this nightmare might finally be over. That evening, as I made myself tea, I noticed an envelope slipped under my door. My blood ran cold as I picked it up. There was no name, no return address, just a single piece of paper inside. It read, "For every widow, there's a successor. She's not gone. She's only passed the torch." My hands trembled. The war wasn't over. It was only changing hands. I stared at the letter in my trembling hands. "She's not gone. She's only passed the torch." The words seemed to crawl off the page and into my chest, wrapping around my heart like cold vines. For a brief moment, I thought about running, leaving this cursed house behind and disappearing somewhere no one could find me. But then I remembered the nights I spent defending this place, the years of love and sacrifice that made it mine. No, I wouldn't let fear drive me away now. The next morning, I showed the letter to the undercover agent. He read it slowly, his jaw tightening. This means someone else is taking over her operations, he said. The widow's successor. They'll try to prove themselves by finishing what she started. So they'll come here, I said, my voice steady. Yes, he replied grimly. And they'll be more dangerous than her, because they'll want to make a statement. I took a deep breath. Then we'll be ready. That evening, the agent revealed a shocking detail. Margaret, we think we know who the widow's successor is. It's someone very close to you. My stomach twisted. Who? He hesitated. Your daughter-in-law, Melissa. I froze. Melissa? She's in prison. He shook his head. She was released on bail yesterday. And according to our intel, she's been in contact with the widow's network ever since. The room spun. Melissa, the woman who punched me, who tried to steal everything from me, is now leading the very people who tried to kill me. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in the living room with my late husband's old shotgun across my lap. I prayed I wouldn't have to use it, but deep inside, I knew the fight was coming. And it came sooner than I expected. Around midnight, I heard the sound of footsteps on the porch. My grip tightened on the shotgun. The door creaked slowly open. Melissa stepped inside, dressed in black, her eyes cold as ice. Hello, Margaret, she said softly, almost sweetly. Why are you here? I asked, my voice low but firm. She smirked. To finish what Daniel and I started. The widow gave me control. I'm not here to scare you anymore. I'm here to end you. You won't get away with this, I said. She tilted her head, smiling cruelly. Who's going to stop me? The cops? They'll get here too late. Before she could take another step, floodlights blazed through the windows. Police stormed the house, weapons drawn. Melissa spun around, cursing as officers surrounded her. The agent stepped forward, his voice sharp. It's over, Melissa. Drop the knife. She snarled like a cornered animal, then lunged toward me. My heart stopped, but the agent tackled her before she could reach me. The knife clattered to the floor as they dragged her away in handcuffs, screaming and thrashing. You'll pay for this, old woman, she screamed. You took everything from me. I stood tall, staring straight into her eyes. No, Melissa. You took everything from yourself. After they shoved her into the police car, the agent turned to me. It's done. The network's broken. She was their last piece. I nodded, tears streaming down my face, not from fear, but from relief. For the first time in weeks, the air around my house felt lighter. The next morning, I walked through the rooms of my battered home. The walls bore scars of the battle, but they stood strong, just like me. I called a repair crew, had the windows replaced, and repainted the walls. As the sun set, I sat on my porch, sipping tea, watching the golden light wash over the house. I thought about Daniel, my son, lost to greed, and Melissa, who had destroyed her own life. I thought about the widow, whose empire crumbled because she underestimated me. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. That evening, I opened the letter I had written to myself during the worst of it. It said only one thing. You are stronger than they know. I folded it back and placed it in a drawer. The war was over. I had survived. As the night settled in, I lit a candle in the living room. The soft glow filled the house, wrapping me in warmth. For the first time in what felt like forever, I allowed myself to breathe, really breathe. I wasn't just a survivor. I was victorious. And no one would ever take that from me again. Speech balloon. If this story touched you and kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts. What would you have done in Margaret's place? Your voice matters, and your story deserves to be heard too.